Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got a really extraordinary stack of sources lined up for you. They somehow connect dreams, anti-gravity logistics, and honestly, the marketing strategies behind making something go viral.
Yeah, it's quite a mix.
So if you've ever wondered what happens when, say, a hippo decides to just ignore Newtonian physics, well, you're definitely in the right place.
It's an unusual mission for us today, certainly. Our
Mhm.
task is kind of twofold.
Good.
First, we need to meticulously unpack this highly specific, very curious case of Harold, the flying hippo. That's from
Yeah.
our main narrative source.
Right, Harold. Got it.
And second, I have to analyze the meta-commentary from our second source. This source looks at how content creators use exactly this type of surprising detail, whether it's real or totally fantastical, to, capture the public imagination.
And spur creativity.
Okay, so our primary document is this really vivid, detail-rich excerpt about Harold's life, and crucially, his legendary, if, well, short-lived flight.
Mm-hmm.
And the second source is more of a meta-analysis, like a marketing brief almost. Exactly. It explores how content teams approach and, frankly, monetize these kinds of hypothetical facts.
So it's a dive into narrative physics and strategic communication. Okay, let's get into this. High concept hook indeed.
Right. So what's immediately clear from the first source is the level of commitment the author gives Harold.
How so?
Well, we're told he wasn't interested in the usual hippo stuff. No mud baths, no lazy watermelon lunches.
No intimidating zebras.
Definitely not. Harold was, fundamentally a creature of aspiration. The source says he had feathered dreams.
Feathered dreams. I like that. And the source mentions him sitting in the pond like a giant wet potato, specifically because he was comparing himself to birds.
That comparison is absolutely key. That's his motivation. And his big aha moment wasn't mystical or anything. It was pure observation.
Okay.
He watched a flock of flamingos doing this perfectly synchronized takeoff, and his interpretation, brilliant. He saw them as reality TV ballet dancers.
Reality TV ballet dancers. Okay.
And this led him straight to this, revolutionary core belief. Completely defines zoology, obviously.
Which was?
If those long-legged pink noodles can fly, so can I.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. That level of immediate, maybe irrational self-belief, that's what kicks off the whole logistical operation.
And speaking of logistics, this wasn't just a daydream, right? This required some serious planning. Engineering, even.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I appreciate the story, but how realistic is it that Harold, even in this fictional world, orders exactly 2,000 balloons from Amazon? Doesn't that kind of specific commercial detail, risk breaking the whimsical feel?
But see, that's where the narrative genius comes in. And it's actually something the second source touches on about memorability, including these specific huge numbers like 2,000, and mentioning a platform we all know, like Amazon. It anchors the absurdity in something tangible, relatable almost.
Right, makes it feel achievable, even if it's hilariously impractical.
Exactly. And the execution plan itself was also incredibly meticulous.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, the source details the precise attachment points around his waist, obviously, his tail, his ears.
The ears, too.
The ears, too. And crucially, this detail is great. It speaks to his vanity, one balloon on each nostril. Why? Aesthetic matters.
Aesthetic matters. For a hippo launch, of course.
It's this blend of, extreme engineering and personal style. And the liftoff wasn't instant either. That adds a bit of narrative friction.
Friction is good. The source describes that slow buildup pretty well, doesn't it?
Perfectly. It was this determined, toe-by-toe ascent. First, one toe lifts off, then two, until he finally leaves the ground. The description is like a confused blimp.
Confused blimp, okay.
Like slow, determined shift from being stuck by gravity to suddenly defying it. It makes you root for him, before the real chaos even starts.
Right, and here's where it gets really interesting once he's actually airborne. Because let's be honest, the physics of a hippo tied to 2,000 balloons, probably not graceful.
Oh, not at all. He wasn't soaring majestically. He was spinning like a refrigerator trying to do ballet.
Okay, that visual is something.
It's designed for maximum comedy, right, and memorability. And the public reaction just proves the spectacle worked, regardless of his lack of grace.
Right, you get that chaos, parents screaming.
But kids cheering, that contrast. And then you get the ultimate soundbite from some bystander, the quote that basically becomes the headline for the whole event.
Let me guess. Heavy ducks.
You got it? I told everyone hippos were just heavy ducks. It's this immediate, spontaneous recategorization of the natural world based on one absurd moment.
That quote is pure content gold, definitely. But
Yeah.
it wasn't just the humans reacting, was it? There was a sort of geopolitical shift in the animal kingdom.
Well, yeah, according to the source.
Yeah.
The geese, the original masters of the sky, they apparently held an emergency meeting right away.
An emergency goose meeting.
Yeah, okay.
And their conclusion.
Official statement. The hippos are evolving. We must respond.
Wow. Okay, so Harold's flight is suddenly an evolutionary crisis.
It's a perfect example of how the source uses supporting characters to, raise the stakes. The geese provide this great narrative opposition. It suggests Harold's flight isn't just personal, it's disrupting the whole animal world order.
Meanwhile, Harold himself is presumably just enjoying the view, or maybe not if he's spinning.
Well, he's experiencing peak ambition, let's say. At 3,000 feet, he has this moment, a profound self-awareness thing. He spots a passing seagull.
Okay. What happens?
This high-altitude realization is pretty key for his character arc. Harold suddenly gets it. His fundamental logistical disadvantage, birds don't worry about balloon strings, right?
Good point.
His success is complicated. It's messy. It's literally tied to consumer goods. But even with this awareness, and remember, he's still spinning like laundry up there, the seagull apparently asks if he's okay.
And Harold says,
He shouts back the ultimate statement on chaotic ambition. I'm living my truth.
living his truth. At 3,000 feet, spinning, tied to balloons. Okay. An inspiration, maybe, but also, as you said, a logistical time bomb. Those balloons.
Yeah, they eventually succumbed. Decompression, maybe just wear and tear. The descent had to happen. It provides the necessary closure and, tension.
How did it happen?
After drifting over 3 neighborhoods, 2 traffic jams, and 1 very surprised outdoor yoga class, the inevitable began.
The popping.
P-O-P. P-O-P? And P-O-P-P. The sound description is deliberate, I think. It moves from funny surprise to, mounting anxiety.
Sounds chaotic. Did he crash?
Actually, no. The landing itself was surprisingly gentle. Controlled splashdown, basically.
Where?
He landed safely in the biggest city fountain. The source describes him descending like a chubby angel.
A chubby angel. Okay. But let's get down to the results, the quantifiable stuff that makes this story stick.
Right. So Harold flew for 17 glorious minutes. This wasn't just a quick hop. This was arguably the flight of the first heavyweight aircraft in history.
First heavyweight aircraft, and history, as we know, has consequences. The world might have laughed.
But the geese, remember the geese?
Oh, right, the emergency meeting.
Those masters of aerial bureaucracy, they sued him.
They sued the hippo. Seriously.
According to the source, yes. That legal action is kind of the cost of the spectacle, isn't it?
It is. And that cost, that complication, that's exactly what the second source, the content creator analysis, is interested in, right?
Precisely. The lawsuit is the perfect narrative hook. It ensures the story doesn't just end with a splash in a fountain. It ends with drama, unresolved conflict.
Even if it's absurd conflict.
Especially if it's absurd conflict. That legal angle, however silly, bridges us perfectly to that second source, the meta-analysis on content strategy.
Okay, let's shift gears then. Talk about that second source. Because Harold flew for 17 glorious minutes. That's a massive, visually stunning story, easy to imagine.
Earth big narrative.
But the meta-analysis introduces this hypothetical. What if scientists discovered hippos could only fly, maybe jump in a weird way for just a tiny fraction of a
A
second?
minimal data point, almost nothing.
Exactly. Yet that source suggests this tiny fact is actually a more powerful starting point for content creators than Harold's whole epic journey.
Why? It's a really interesting question about engagement, isn't it? Source 2, which seems like it's designed to find these high-concept hooks.
Yeah.
It basically argues that this Flying Hippos podcast challenge, as it calls it, should prioritize that minimal, maybe verifiable fraction of a second flight over Harold's big story.
But why? Why is the tiny scientific blip better than the grand fictional 17-minute spectacle?
It comes down to something we could call asymmetric information value. That small, specific, super surprising scientific detail. It's like a concentrated burst of information that just completely upends what everyone thinks they know.
Okay.
It actually requires 20 minutes of analysis just to explain the possible mechanism, the context, the implications of that tiny fraction of a second.
So it forces a deeper dive.
Exactly. You need high enthusiasm, probably a lot of humor, maybe some goofy graphics or a thumbnail, to take that minimalist fact and turn it into a maximalist investigation.
Ah, okay. So the challenge isn't just describing the spectacle, like we did with Harold flying. It's about explaining the absurd mechanism behind the tiny data point.
Yes, it forces the creator into pseudoscience, physics, maybe biomechanics, complex hypotheticals, rather than just recounting plot points from a story.
So it generates more questions, more analysis.
Precisely. The goal for creators, as this analysis lays it out, is to take that tiny anomaly and use humor, enthusiasm, the goofy thumbnail you mentioned, to turn it into genuinely engaging, deep analysis. The fact that hippos might fly for a fraction of a second has more inherent narrative friction.
Friction because the explanation is harder to grasp than just he tied on balloons.
Exactly that. The balloons are easy. The fraction of a second flight. That needs explaining. That needs investigation.
So the analysis suggests leveraging constraints. Harold's story is this huge canvas, but the fraction of a second fact is this tiny, tight constraint that forces a more analytical and maybe, therefore, more viral deep dive.
You've got it. The job becomes elevating the slightest hint of hippos can fly into an entire world of, like, critical examination and playful speculation.
Okay, so the power isn't just in how long they fly.
Not the magnitude of the phenomenon, no.
Yeah.
17 minutes versus a fraction of a second. It's about the magnitude of the surprise and the willingness of creators to apply real analysis, real critical thinking to a premise that sounds completely absurd.
Questioning the assumed limitations,
Right.
whether it's a hippo or a marketing strategy.
That's the connection.
Okay. So let's circle back to Harold then. He had no regrets, right? Despite the spinning, the lawsuit.
Living his truth.
So the sources, when you put them together, they give us both the big, inspirational, slightly bonkers tale and the cold, hard analysis of why we love telling and hearing these kinds of tales.
And that really is the powerful difference these sources highlight, isn't it? It's the difference between just accepting the world's limitations, hippos can't fly, and choosing to pursue a vision anyway, regardless of how silly or how complex the logistics might seem, like, sourcing 2,000 actual balloons.
Right.
It kind of encourages all of us, you, the listener, to apply maybe that same critical thinking or maybe just determination to our own unique goals, whether they involve actual aerospace engineering or just high-concept content creation.
Fantastic summary. Okay, now for our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Right.
If you were on the legal team representing the geese in their class action lawsuit against Harold,
Okay, the goose litigation team.
what specific charge, beyond just like unauthorized air traffic, would you file against the world's first heavyweight aircraft? Think about it.
Yeah.
Would it be maybe emotional distress caused by witnessing a sudden, unexpected mammalian evolutionary leap?
Or maybe something more mundane, like littering in restricted airspace because of all the popped balloon fragments.
Good one. Something for you to ponder. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.